I've been using Adobe Premiere for about 15 years now, and I've edited both professionally through my video production company, and I've also edited YouTube videos, well over 1,000 different YouTube videos. So I wanted to show you exactly how to get started with Adobe Premiere Pro. I broke up this training to about 10 different sections. So we're gonna get started with the very basics of using Adobe Premiere Pro, and then I'll show you more advanced editing techniques. We'll look at adding images, adding B-roll, adding music, working with transitions and filters. And then I'll show you exactly how to export it out of Premiere so you could upload it to any platform you want. Okay, step number one is obviously downloading and installing Adobe Premiere Pro on your computer. It works on Mac and it works on Windows PC. I'll have a link to this page, which is the Adobe Premiere Pro page directly from the Adobe website, where you could sign up with a free trial. They have a 7-day free trial right now. And I'll also show you this pricing page when you click on the free trial, because there's two different ways you could get Adobe Premiere Pro. One is you could get it as a standalone app. So Adobe Premiere Pro would be the only app that you get with this plan right here. And after the trial, it's a monthly plan that you will have to pay for. But with a monthly subscription, you get all the new updates. So for example, they have a ton of AI updates that they've been adding for the last year or two. So every time they have those, you get it with a simple update with the subscription. Now, this is the version I have, and the one I recommend is called Creative Cloud All Apps. This gives you 20 plus apps for one bundle. So you don't have to buy Premiere and then Photoshop and then Illustrator. This gets you all of them at the same time with one bundle. And Photoshop, for example, I use all the time. So if you're only gonna use Premiere, then get this left one here, this right one. If you're gonna use other apps like Photoshop, this makes more sense. Okay, let's go to step number 2, which is creating a new project. So after you go through the installation process, you're gonna land on Adobe Premiere, which looks like this. You're gonna land on the Learn tab or the Home tab, most likely on the left side. But what we wanna do is press New Project and start a new project from here. Now, by default, they're always called untitled. So you do wanna name your project, Adobe Premiere Tutorial. And then this Location tab right here. So this is where your project is going to get saved. So let me show you this. This is one of the best things I learned when I first started editing. I'm gonna click Choose a Location down here. And I've created a folder right here that has 5 different folders inside of it. So the folder is just called Adobe Premiere Tutorial. Within that folder, I have 5 different folders where I could organize things a little bit better. So all my footage, any video clips, for example, I have some from my phone, I have some from an SD card, they all go into the footage folder. Then I have a picture folder. If I want to use any type of pictures in my edits, I add them here. Any graphics, like a little YouTube subscribe icon, for example, I could add that there. Then we have a music folder. So I'm going to show you how to add music. I'm going to use a platform called Epidemic Sound, which gives you royalty-free music. More on that in a bit. And the project files is the Adobe Premiere saved project files, which I'm about to save for the first time. Now over here, you'll see this external hard drive. So I recommend you buy yourself an external hard drive. So for my YouTube channel, for example, I have an external hard drive. For different projects for clients, I have different external hard drives. And then I create these folders and really organize things inside of different hard drives. The reason why you don't want to use your internal hard drive on your laptop, for example, is because video files are huge. You might run up your entire space on your local hard drive very quickly after a few projects. So I recommend getting these. I'll put some in the description below this video. Let's See, for example, is a company that makes really good ones. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and select this one. That's pretty much it. We're gonna press create. Okay, now that's gonna bring you inside of Adobe Premiere Pro. Most likely it's gonna bring you to this import tab right over here where you will import your footage. I actually don't want you to start here. I like to go to this edit tab, and this is where I typically like to start. So they have 3 different tabs on top. They have import, that's bringing in your footage. Edit, that's exactly what that sounds like. And then exporting is when you export and take it out of here as a video file that could be shared. We're going to start in the edit panel for this section. Okay, that brings us to step number 3, which is importing media. Now, one thing I want you to do, especially if you've been using Premiere before, is go to Window, click on Workspace, and go to this one called Editing. Sometimes in some computers, this is called Default Editing. Just click on this so you get the same layout. So everything from this point forward would look similar to mine. Okay, and then to import media, we're gonna go on the left side and we're gonna go ahead and import some media. You'll see 4 panels over here. And then you also see some tools over here. So we're going to cover all of that, but I don't want to talk about these just yet. It's a little confusing until you see what goes into each of these 4 panels. But to import media, you'll just click this blue tab. I'm going to select that same folder that I've mentioned so far. If I bring the whole folder in, it's going to bring in everything that's into that folder. If you want to bring in just one clip, you could also select one clip that you have. As I mentioned, I already organized everything. This footage, for example, if I press spacebar, this is something I captured on my iPhone on an old submarine, and I dropped it. I airdropped it to my computer here. That's how it appeared over here. If you have a little SD card, you could insert that into a card reader and bring in footage that way too. So in this case, I'm going to select the entire folder and import the folder. And you could see it keeps it organized in a folder structure. So that's really nice. You don't have a ton of different random clips here. You'll expand this out and you'll see all your video clips in here. Now we could do the same kind of thing with our pictures. So I have this folder with pictures. I just have one picture in here and I want to bring this in too. So this time, instead of just clicking to import, I'm just going to go to this window here, and you could grab it like this and bring it into here as well. And you could see now I don't have a folder, but if you do that, you could always create your folders in here. So I could click this, I could call this pictures, and I could drag this into that pictures folder. So you could keep it organized this way too. I'm showing you this organization, kind of boring, but if you get this right and then you edit all the time, this makes your life a whole lot easier. And then we also want to bring in any type of music. Right now, I don't have any. So let me show you where to get some music here, because music and sound effects really elevate your level of editing. And I recommend learning how to add music to any type of video that you create. There's a platform called Epidemic Sound. They're actually sponsoring this video, and I'll put a link in the description where you could go ahead and try this out for yourself. But this one has a massive library of royalty-free music. So if you don't know about music rights, what you want to do is find royalty-free music, meaning that you got permission to use that song. You can't just go download any song and use it. YouTube will remove that video, demonetize that video. You'll get a copyright, all kinds of issues that go along with it. Well, a platform like Epidemic Sound gives you permission to use it. You just subscribe to this platform and then you could search for any type of music. What's really cool about this is you could search by video and drag and drop your video here once it's edited, and it will give you recommendations, and they give you some recommendations based on categories. So in this case, I'm kind of making a nature video, right? I'm just like underwater historical type. So I could click this and get recommendations from this specific video. And again, you could do this with your own video clips as well, or your finished video, and then it's going to give us some suggestions here. And all you have to do, I have my computer on mute right now, just press play. It will just go ahead and play this. If you like it, you could just press download right over here, and then you could download the full track. You could select between MP3 and WAV. I like WAV, it's a better quality, and you just download it from here. And I just added it from my download folder to this music folder right over here. So that's all you need to do inside of Epidemic Sound. Now, the other thing they have is under this app section, they have a plugin for Adobe Premiere Pro. One of the main reasons I partnered with them for this video is it's very easy to integrate the two for the music and sound effects part of your edit. So I recommend you do this as well, or you could just, the way I showed you, download, put it in that folder. And now I just have to go to this music folder. I'll bring it over here. So now I pretty much have everything, right? I have my footage, I have my pictures. If I want to add sound effects, I can make a folder for that, download some sound effects. And again, if you want to try Epidemic Sound and get your royalty-free music, I'll put a link in the description where you could try it out for free. Okay, let's get to step number 4, which is now adding footage to our timeline and start assembly. Assembly is the first step in your editing process. So here's what I do. I open the footage folder here, and I have a bunch of different footage. I'll start with this one right over here. I'm going to double click it. If you double click a clip here, it loads it up right on top. So this is going to be your preview window. You're going to preview all your clips here and then decide what part of your clip you want to use. So you can see this one selected. This one is pretty short clip. So you can see if I go to the end of it, it's 5 seconds. It shows that over here. And I want to actually decide which part of it I want to use. I don't want to use the whole clip. So I'm going to show you a keyboard shortcut, a couple of keyboard shortcuts that are very, very handy. if I decide this clip is gonna start here in my edit, I could press I. That creates what's called an in point. It's also over here. If you just wanna press mark in right here, that creates your mark in point. And then if you go at right over here, let's say I wanna end it here, well, that's O. So if you click this right here or click O on your keyboard, now you have an in point and an out point. And you wanna do this as you go through your list of clips. And then for the third step, I just grab it and drag it down here. Okay, now you could see it's created something down here called the timeline. All your actual editing is gonna take place down here. So this is assembly. Assembly is picking the best clips here, choosing an in point, choosing an out point, and bringing it down here. We could still trim it, we could still make other decisions, we could remove it, we could do all that in the next step. But right now, in the assembly, I'm gonna double click on the next one. I'm going to, again, see what this is all about. I for in point, O for out point, and then I'm gonna go ahead and drag it and bring it over here, okay? Let me just do it to one more. This one, let's scrub through it a little bit, okay? In point, out point, and we'll add it over here, okay? So now let me go down here. You see this little dot right here? If I expand this out, I could see kind of the end of it because it was kind of collapsed in. I could expand it out to see where my video ends right here. So if I go in the very beginning, you see this says 0. And if I go all the way at the end right over here, it says 6. So that means my entire edit right now is 6 seconds long. So I'm just getting started. Up here, this is called your program window. So your actual edited project, they call it program, is up here. So preview window on the left side, the actual end video on the right side. And this is how you could kind of see what's going on. So as you go through your timeline down here, you'll see this change. As you go through individual clips that are loaded here, you'll see this change. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense so far. Next, I want to show you down here what's going on in the timeline. This is where you spend the bulk of your time as an editor. You have what's called a video track called V1, and then you'll have more. This is video track 2, video track 3, and they just keep going up from there. You could layer video tracks on top of each other, and whatever is the top layer is going to show up in your actual edit. Right now, I only have one, so that's what I see. But when I add a second one, you'll see how that changes. And then you have audio tracks, same kind of thing. Audio track 1, 2, 3. So right now, this is just the audio, this section of it, that comes from my phone's recording. And then same thing here. I'll show you with a video clip that has me talking in a second, so you'll see what that kind of looks like too. So right now, we want to just continue to go down the list of little clips here. Here's another one I have here, so I'm going to just add this one. So we just continue building like this. Now you could see this one doesn't have an audio track. Some clips are not going to have an audio track. This one was recorded on my phone, so it just recorded an audio, but some are not going to have an audio track, which is okay. Now for step number 5, I want to show you how to organize your clips inside of the timeline, because right now I just kind of added the sections of each clip I wanted, but what if I want to move things around? Super simple to do that. You could click on any of these clips, grab it, and put this at the end like that, right? So now we have video 1, 2, and then clip 3 became the last clip. And then it creates this little space right here, which is going to be a problem, because if I finish this video right now, it's going to go from this clip to black and then to this. We don't want this black part. So we'll have to select it and press delete. Another thing you could do is you could actually grab multiple clips. Let's say these need to be moved. I could just grab all 3 and move them like this. So now the order changed completely differently. Now, if I want to bring this in the beginning, maybe this is my title card, I'll bring it to the very beginning, right? We still have a gap here we got to close. So we could press delete, or we could select everything like this and move things like this. So very easy to move things around inside of your timeline like this. If you select one clip, it selects that, or you could just select kind of hovering over multiple different clips and it will select all. Okay, that brings us to step number 6, which is making cuts on the timeline and trimming too. So this time I brought in another clip right here. This is me talking. I loaded it up here. And instead of putting in points and out points up here, I'm just gonna grab it from down here and take it all the way to my timeline. I'll just dump it right here onto my timeline. And while it's on the timeline, you'll see a few different things. So this has video and it has audio, and you could see by these kind of waveforms where I'm talking, and when it's on silent, this is where I'm not talking. So this, I know I start talking here because of this waveform. Now, I have this on mute right now. Let me just press play. You'll see this audio bar right here that's showing you your levels. This is a level meter of your audio. So you typically want this to be between 18 and 6. If it's not, you'll see this line right here, which you could adjust the level of the audio. But I'll show you that in a second. Right now, I just want to show you that there is some audio happening. So right now, how do I actually cut this section up? Because right here, I'm not talking. I start talking right over here. And where this blue line is, this is very handy. This little indicator shows you where you are. So that's what's being previewed up here. So I need to make a cut right here. So to do that, you'll see these tools. Right now, I'm on this selection tool, this little V. But there's a razor tool right here. The keyboard shortcut for it is C. This keyboard shortcut is V. So I go between V and C on my keyboard all the time. I'll make a cut here, and then I'll go back to this V, the selection tool. I'll select this portion and press delete on my keyboard, and it got rid of that section that I don't want. Now, I'm gonna go a little bit later. I'm done talking here. Same kind of thing. I need to cut here. I need to go a little bit later. I need to cut here, and this gap needs to go away, right? So if I choose, again, the selection tool, and if I press delete, that gap is gone. Now I created a new gap, so I just have to delete that as well. Okay. Now for this next one, let me show you a better shortcut for that. So I'm gonna, again, make a cut here. I'll make another cut here. Now here, I'm gonna either hold Option if you're on a Mac or Alt if you're on a PC. And then while holding that, press delete, and that creates that ripple delete at the same time. So you don't have to delete twice. You don't have to delete the clip and then the blank section that's left behind. And there we go. Now we're going from this clip to another clip, and we could continue to do things that way. And again, you can move things around as before. So if I wanted to put this in the beginning, I could close this gap and continue editing exactly the same way with reordering clips. Now you could always trim too. So trimming is if you grab any point here where there's a cut or the beginning or end of things, you could just drag them this way. This basically makes this section of it disappear. So I usually prefer making the blade tool cuts or the razor tool cuts and making edits that way, but trimming is another thing you could do like this. So if I wanted to trim this to start a little bit later, that's how you would make these type of trims. Okay, that brings us to step number 7, which is adding B-roll or images. Right now, the way the edit is there's a bunch of different clips of a submarine. Then it's me talking about the submarine. Well, what if I want to show the submarine as I'm talking? That's B-roll, okay? The way you add that is I'm going to just click on one of these that I haven't used, this one, okay? I'm going to press I and O, same as before. And now I'm going to go ahead and drag it, and I'm going to put it right on top of me talking like this, okay? So let me just move this a little bit further so you can see. So it's going to be me talking, then it goes to the B-roll of what I'm talking about, and then as soon as this is done, cuts back to me. If I want to trim this a little bit, I'll just make it shorter, so then it comes back to me a little bit faster. So that's adding B-roll, and it landed on video track number 3 here, but you could put it on just video track number 2. If you don't want to bring the audio with it, by the way, let me delete this one. You'll see this little icon right here that says drag video only. If I drag video only, that's typically what you want to do for B-roll, because you don't need the audio from the B-roll, because I want me talking to be the audio, so we don't need that. Now, once we add music and all that, it's going to add a little bit to this, but right now, pretty straightforward to add B-roll. To add images, let's go to our image folder right over here, picture. This is the picture we have, okay? That's what it looks like. I could grab it. I double click to load it up here. I'm going to drag it on top of me talking again. So now it's going to go from here to the picture, and then let me trim this down a little bit back to me talking. Now you see the picture looks huge, right? It actually was this size, but why is it so huge here? Well, that's a resolution of the picture. It's bigger than the resolution of the video, so it's cropped it in automatically. So if you select that picture and you come up here to Effect Control right over here, there's this thing called Scale. You could scale it down. Just grab the slider and scale it down, and now it fits the way it should, right? So now it goes from me talking to the right scale. Now, sometimes you could even scale it down even more like this. And then with this position slider, if I go left like this, and then if I go up like this, there we go. So this could be another way. So if I go here, I press play, there we go. And to press play, all you have to do is press spacebar on your keyboard, and wherever that line is, it's gonna play from that point forward. Okay, let's go to step number 8, which is adding music, which as I showed you in the beginning of the video, I used a platform called Epidemic Sound. I got this music track right here, and this is a royalty-free music track that I could use in any video I post online on YouTube. So to do that, I have my music right over here that I added. So I'm gonna grab it, but this time we wanna add it to another audio track, A2, so it could become our background music. If I put it in A1 like this, it's gonna override everything I'm saying, right? Not what we wanna do. So let me show you this edit option on here to undo. This comes in really, really handy. Anytime you make a mistake, undo. There's a keyboard shortcut for it I use all the time. Okay, now if someone was watching this video and if they press play, they're gonna hear the music is ramping up right here. Again, I have it on silent just so I could talk through it. And here it's really picking up and then the video starts there. So with music, you could also trim the beginning like this. And then I could go ahead and drag it to start a little bit sooner. And music pretty much has all the options that you do have with video. So if you wanted to make cuts to the music for some reason, you could go ahead and make it like this. But typically these music are professionally created, so you don't want to go and chop it up like this. I leave it exactly as it came out of the box. But we do want to go at the end of our project. I'm just pressing minus on my keyboard to shrink things down. Right now, I know this part we don't need. And let's say, let me actually make an edit to the end of my video. Let's say my video actually ends here. I'll select it and press end. You could see now, if my video ended here, this audio track is not long enough, right? If my video kept going, well, I could always add more different songs and really blend that in together. But right now, we need to make it shorter. So a real easy way to do that, you just select the blade tool, come over here, at the end of your track, click it, and it makes the cut. By the way, if it's not snapping like this, you see how mine snaps where the cut points are? There's a tool right here, make sure it's on. It's called Snap in Timeline. It's a shortcut S on your keyboard for it, but it's on by default. Now, I'll select the extra part of the music and press delete. And now the beginning and end are set up the way they should be and the music matches. Now you need to adjust the volume of your music typically. Right now, if I wasn't talking, the volume is perfectly fine. But if you're talking, you need to lower that music so it just becomes background music and people could hear whoever's talking, right? In this case, I'm talking, so I need to lower it. And there's this line right here. If I just drag and drop this to about -30, it says -29.6 dB. So that is the right amount based on my experience and the type of music I selected here. You have to listen to it and see how it sounds. So if I press play right now, it's me talking and the music is background music, and -30 dB is about the right amount. Sometimes you might be a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but adjust it, press play, see how it sounds with whoever is talking and how it blends in. A lot of times that's just more of aesthetics choice, and that's audio mixing. So they have a whole Oscar category for these type of audio mixing in movies. And if you have any type of sound effects, you could add that to track number 3, A3. So A1 is talking dialogue, A2 is music, A3 could be sound effects. Now, step number 9 is applying transitions and filters. Two different things. I'll show you transitions first. So over here on this panel where we imported our media, if I scroll over, there's a whole effects category right here. And within that, we have audio filters, audio transitions, video effects, and video transitions. Now I'm gonna show you first audio effects. They organize these into different folders. So for example, there is one under the blur folder, this one. If I grab this blur and drop it here on top of the clip, it seems like nothing is happening because I haven't adjusted the settings for that effect. If I go on top right over here, so depending on what tab you're on, if you go to the effects tab, I'm gonna select this again. If I scroll down, you'll see this Gaussian blur is applied, but it's at 0. So if I increase it, now it's doing the blur. If I don't like it, I could select it from here and just press delete and it removes it. And that's adding effects. I'll show you one more that's a little bit easier to see. So under image control, there's one called black and white. If I wanna turn this into more black and white, probably makes sense for a World War II submarine. Drag and drop, just like that, it's applied it. And besides drag and dropping, by the way, you could just double click it and it will apply it that way too. And if you go to the effects control again on that clip, you'll see it over here. So this one was called black and white. This one did not have a slider, so it had some settings by default. I could delete it from here again if I don't want to use it. And then if I go back to FX, let me go ahead and close this one up right here. Let's go and close this one, and let's go to video transitions. Video transition is what happens when one clip ends and another clip begins. If I press play here so far, every time a clip ended and a different clip started, there's no transition. And when there's no transition, that's just called a cut, which is perfectly fine, by the way. And most movies only have cuts. They hardly have transitions. But a lot of times transitions do come in handy. I'll show you some of my favorites. Right here, there is one, if I open up Dissolve, called Cross Dissolve. The most famous transition you'll ever see. If I apply it, I'm going to grab it and drag it between two clips where I want to apply it, these two. It's going to go from this clip and dissolve into the other clip, right? Really straightforward here. I'll delete this one. Now, there's also dip to black. This one's kind of cool. Put it in the same spot. Just dips to black just like that. Okay, so pretty straightforward how to do that. If you double click them, by the way, these little transitions could be double clicked and you could add to the duration. By default, they're just 1 second. But if you want a long one or a super short one, you could change that timer there. Now, what about all these other ones? Well, some of these are kind of cheesy. Like this one splits a clip. Let me just show you. Yeah, I don't like that. That looks like something that was made in the 80s. So transitions, don't overdo it. A lot of the dissolve ones are really good. And that brings us to step number 10, which is adding text. Let's say I want a really nice, bold text that is going to be my title text right here on the very opening shot of this little World War II submarine movie. To do that, right over here, you have a text tool right here. So these are all your different tools. The text tool, really easy to use. Click on it and just go up here where your video is and click. And now you could start typing text. So this is going to be called our epic movie. So type in whatever you want. Now, if you don't like the styling of it, this one, I don't know if I like the default font. Yours might be tiny. It just depends on what you selected. Again, if you go to the FX control over here, you'll see the text. You could open it up. And you could have all kinds of different things that you could choose, including different fonts, for example. So let's say, let's choose that one. Change the font. Let's make it bold. And let's increase the size a bunch. There we go. And it's going a little off screen here. So I need to bring it into our screen. So I could go ahead and do that with our transform sliders. There we go. This is left and right. This is up and down. Okay, there we go. So if I click away, there it is. Here is a nice little title and it's too short. I need to expand it. This works just like any picture or video clip. You just expand it out and then this one ends right here. If you wanted to carry this on for a while, you could also do that. But right now I'm going to just trim it to and there. Okay. And you have a ton of different options, by the way. You could change the color. You could add background shadows. So explore those on your own. Really easy to add text inside of Premiere Pro with this option right here. Okay, for our final step, we need to save this out of this program. So two things you need to save. One is the project file itself. So if you go to File and you press Save As, that is going to let you save your project file. Now, initially I created a project file, so it's already saved. So I don't need to do a Save As. All I have to do is go to File and press Save. That is going to create that Premiere Pro project, which we created in the beginning, but it's going to save all our progress. So the next time we double click that, it opens up Adobe Premiere Pro and we could continue to make adjustments to the edit. You always want to do that. Next, you go to File and then you want to go ahead and export this tab and then go to Media right over here, which now, if you look on top, it brings you from the Edit tab to the Export tab. Okay, so you could have selected it from over here. By habit, I always do it from the File menu. Then you want to name your exported file. So the project file had a different name, but your video file, the one you're exporting, needs to have a name too. So by default, it just brings in whatever name of that timeline was, which I did not change. Usually I would change it there, but I forgot to do that, so we'll name it here instead. So our epic movie, that's the name of this one, .mp4. Your location where you want to save it. I'm going to click this. Now I'm going to go back to the same exact folder that I had before, and I'm going to create a new folder called Finished Files. to keep things nice and organized, and I'll create that folder and I'll save this inside of that folder. So all our stuff is going to be in the same place on an external hard drive with our project file, always easy to get back to. Then you have something called presets. Now, this is going to seem very complicated. I've studied these type of different video compressions a lot. All you need to know is if your video was shot in 1080p, which most of us shoot in 1080p, you just choose this one, YouTube 1080p. It doesn't matter if you're not going on YouTube. This is just a compression setting. So I always choose this one. Even sometimes if I'm doing this for clients, this is perfectly fine. And then the format, this is a compression format. H.264 is what you want. There's a ton of them. You don't need to know about it. These are the two you need to worry about. Now, YouTube also does have a 4K format, which is not showing up here. But if I go to more presets, you'll see an option for YouTube 4K. So I'm going to search on top YouTube. There we go. So this is the 4K version. If your video clips were shot in 4K, you could actually save this in 4K. If they were not, this is the option you want. I mean, look how overwhelming this could be. There's just like a ton of different versions of this. But for the most part, everybody should choose YouTube 1080p or 4K. And then this should be H.264. All these different things, you don't even need to look inside of any of these folders. This is perfectly fine. Press export. Then this is going to take a few seconds. This was a pretty short video. I think this was only about 1 minute, 19 seconds. So it's going to go pretty quick. This depends on the speed of your computer, how fast this exports. And now if I go inside of that folder, if I open up finished files, there it is. There is our video. If I press spacebar, I could go ahead and preview it. I could kind of scrub through to make sure everything is looking good. It's just me talking, the image I added, the B-roll, the opening, it's all there. And then from here, I could drag and drop it to upload it to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever I want to post it on. If I'm delivering it to a client, I'll use a file sharing thing like Google Drive, for example, and share a link where they could download it from there. Now, all the resources I mentioned, including getting music from Epidemic Sound, are listed in the description below this video. Thanks for Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. I will hopefully catch you on the next one.